Studio Shift.
In het komende uur gaan we het hebben over diversity en inclusion. Met een collega van In The Pocket, maar ook met een mooie gast. En daarvoor gaan we wel switchen naar het Engels, zodat het allemaal iets gemakkelijker verloopt. Onze gast is Tamara McConney, een award-winning inclusion specialist who helps leaders drive inclusion and empower diverse teams, creating the right conditions for innovation and growth. After starting her career in the tech sector, she spent years leading programs for multinational organizations and has worked with teams in 30 countries. Today she works with businesses in Belgium and abroad on topics relating to inclusion, diversity and cross-cultural leadership, and is passionate about creating safe spaces for learning and dialogue. Tamara, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Absolute pleasure. And of course, Emma Braille, welcome as well.
Thank you, Bert.
VP People at In The Pocket. I'm really interested in the next hour, so Emma, take off if you feel like it.
I'm feeling really honored, Tamara, that you want to join me this morning in the studio. I've chosen you as a guest because I think you have a very empowering mission, you as a person, but also with your company. And I see you as a true expert, I think, where we can learn a lot from. So I'm happy to dive in D&I with you in the next hour. But Bert already took the time to give a brief introduction about your biography and the things that you already done. But I want to know, who is Tamara and where does your passion from D&I comes from?
Ooh, good question. Who is Tamara? And first of all, thank you again very much for having me here. The pleasure is all mine. Very happy to speak this morning. Who is Tamara? In some ways, the work that I do and my passion for D&I, it's not really a choice. When I look back at my life so far, particularly my upbringing, then I like to say that I was born living cross-culturally, because I was actually born in the US. My parents are from Zimbabwe, so they were living there for many years as expats, and I was living in particular in Washington, D.C. So in a very multicultural place for my early years, meeting people from all different nationalities, different cultures, a real melting pot, if you will. And so from the very beginning, it's been intuitive for me to notice diversity, to be aware of it, and to try to understand better people and cultures. And throughout my childhood, my family moved a number of times, and that helped me, again, expand upon these themes of learning about culture, how to adapt to myself, how to understand different people, and also it gave me some real-life experiences of inclusion and exclusion, being different in certain ways. For instance, moving to a new country and, yes, speaking the language, but with a different accent, and perhaps getting teased at school because of that, and just, having different cultural references, things like that. So through all of that really inspired in me this need to drive inclusion in the way that we work together, the way that we operate as a society, and also encouraged me to want to pursue this as a career.
Nice. Was there a specific moment where you wanted to build the company that you have today, Kazuri Consulting? Was there a specific moment in your life that you were saying okay, I need to do this, or how did it went?
It did all come together, I would say, around the time of the pandemic, and particularly 2020, the events that went on around the world. I think for many of us, there was a large sense of consciousness and awakening. Not that these issues hadn't existed before 2020 with things like the death of George Floyd. That was a real reckoning point for many of us. But simply it was a point of, I can no longer just think that this is the way life is, this is the way it's meant to be, what can I do? And I thought that in what I do, looking at my skills, my passions, etc., one of the best ways that I can do to really be part of the change is to go into this as a profession. And I was already working in D&I, doing initiatives, studying up about cross-cultural leadership, etc. So I thought, okay, let's pursue this properly as a career and see what I can do to help make a change in society.
Really nice. I think the link with the tech sector, if you're looking back in your career, you're also you started in technology.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Can you tell me something more about it and how D&I affected your journey as a professional?
Sure. So I always like to say that I fell into technology in a sense because my background's with education. I did my first degree in religion, philosophy and ethics, and then a master's in psychoanalysis. So technology was not really on my radar as a career. And then my first job, I started using this technology, Salesforce. And at first I did not like it. But after a month of thinking, what am I doing? then I started to really enjoy the software and started to love it. Love the way that it worked, the way that it made my brain think in new ways, the way I could analyze, be creative with it. And then I left that job to specialize in it. And that is when I moved to Belgium about 8 years ago now, long story short, to become a consultant specializing in this technology. And so I really enjoyed it. But as I mentioned from my background, it was not the typical background of the tech consultants that I was working with. Coming here, for instance, the majority, if not all of my colleagues at that time had engineering backgrounds, or at least business engineering, business management, whereas mine, as I said, were a lot more humanities, social sciences. And so I really felt in some ways that I just thought differently to a lot of my colleagues. I approached things slightly differently, and I did experience times when this was liked and appreciated, and other times when it was not so appreciated. And there was certain things like body language from people, a few comments here and there. Are you really credible? Because you're not an engineer, so yes, you're doing the job, but, you know, at heart, can I really trust you? I did find that from time to time.
Yeah, you experienced it from firsthand, how it felt to be excluded in a working environment, or have that that's okay. Like you mentioned, like the importance of having a cultural diverse background and
Yes.
build a diverse team. What would be your reflections about that topic?
I think that cultural awareness is so super important, just because it helps us understand how we work as well and how we approach situations, and then how other people do things. For instance, one thing that I find is communication. One of the hardest things we have to do in the workplace, but one of the most vital. And thinking about cross-cultural leadership, looking at the different styles. There's a theory around high context and low context communication, for instance. The fact that if you are more low context, you tend to really say what you mean and leave little space for ambiguity. Whereas people who are more high context ask you to read the air around the room, in a sense, when they're saying something. They might say yes, but if you look at their body language, if you look at the context of the conversation, you'll know it's really a no. Whereas somebody more low context will say yes, and it will mean yes, generally. So looking at things like that, I think that it's so important when we're working with people around the world, as we do now in more globalized societies, to really understand the nuances, know how we approach situations, and understand how others do as well. It's just looking at the same coin, but different sides. There's no right or wrong, just differences.
How do you put that theory into practice? Because I understand the importance of sensing and like the low and the high context. How do you put that in practice as a professional?
So really going around, for instance, working with teams. When I was doing program management, then I would sit down and have a session with all the people and just say, okay, stakeholders, we need to achieve this. Before we start trying to get into what we're going to do, let's discuss what our communication styles are and what we expect from each other, what we can expect from the communication going forwards. So doing exercises, having open discussions and dialogue around this, so that then I know that if somebody is saying X, Y, and Z, then this is what I can reasonably expect from that. And this is what they can expect from me in the same situation. And I think that cultural intelligence is one of those things that feels intuitive, but can be hard to put our finger on. There's a great story that I heard about a fish in a fish tank. And the fish is swimming along, enjoying its life, and suddenly a new fish enters the fish tank and says, "Hi, nice to meet you. What's the water like here?" And the first fish says, "Water? What's water?" And that's exactly how we experience culture. It's all around us. It's the way that we act, the way that we think intuitively, but it's hard for us to recognize what that culture is, in a sense. But once we do, it can go a long way to figuring out that, okay, my expectations from a meeting are that everyone will arrive on time, for instance, and that there will be a set agenda. But in other people's culture, then it is all right to be 5 minutes late. It doesn't mean, they're not meaning any harm by this. It's just that the way that the culture works, for instance. And then also, maybe we have a set agenda, but the idea is not to stick to it point by point the way that it might be in my culture. In other cultures I've worked with, then it's really, you can maybe go from point 1 to point 5, then back to point 3, maybe bring in a new point that hasn't been added to the agenda, things like that. I noticed a lot of that in my working across cultures.
You mentioned communication as something really important and gave some really great examples. Do you have also examples of how you saw like bad or good communication from previous leaders or people you worked with?
Yes, definitely. And I'd like to come back about the tech sector and talk about how it wasn't all exclusion. That wasn't my only experience. I did have some of those, but I also had some great instances of being included. And communication, one leader definitely comes to mind in this area. And it was a situation where I instinctively felt quite uncomfortable, should I say. I was the only one who was in the group invited to this meeting who was female, for instance. I was also the only person who wasn't white. In a physical space, if you meet me, you'll see that I'm quite short. All of the men at that meeting were very tall. And it was a very interactive workshop. We're putting post-its on the wall, moving around. So when we're gathering, standing up, I was a lot shorter than everybody else. It was quite intimidating in a sense. I was also the most junior person. And I'd been invited to the meeting because I was a specialist in an area and they wanted that contribution. So I really had to remind myself of this and get my courage to speak and think, okay, they've invited you. Say your piece, you have something to contribute, when I felt it was appropriate. And I noticed that the leader used a great communication style, really micro-affirmations. Whenever I said something, I plucked up my courage and I said, this is my idea. He would say things like, very interesting point, Tamara. Team, what do we think about this? Let's add this idea to the list. What can we build on this? And I noticed that he did this with me and with other people in the room. And it had a big psychological effect on me, just making me feel more confident about speaking up because I felt like what I was saying was validated in that sense. And also, I noticed that the way he was speaking and the communication style that he used, including me in the conversation, had a big effect on other people around us. They started, I could say, just from the body language, it felt like they were looking at me with more credibility, whereas before it was, okay, junior person in the room, why are you here? What can you really contribute? But because the leader was communicating in this way, both in the words that he was using and in the body language, then that really had an effect, made me feel a lot more included in the space and validated.
That's a really nice example, and I think also can be a true inspiration for a lot of people because in the D&I field, sometimes it feels like, okay, I need to do a lot of stuff to change it and to build a more diverse and inclusive workforce. And then you give such good and great and small gestures that you can do immediately. For example, if I would step tomorrow in a meeting, I will reflect on this and I will try to implement the things that you say. And it's an easy way, but if we all make that effort, we can change already quite some things.
Exactly. I mean, systemic change is very important, and that does not come easy, but that doesn't mean that there aren't small things that we can do, small everyday actions that can help us move the needle and get to that systemic change. Just as you're highlighting, Emma, the fact that small things like these micro-affirmations, just saying, good point, can send a signal to that person who's speaking and to others around the room, include them in the conversation. Also, thinking about different communication styles, understanding that some people might be more confident airing their views live in the meeting. Other people maybe approach them when you're getting coffee and ask them, what did you think of the point we discussed? Any thoughts about this? Because maybe in a one-to-one setting with fewer people, then they'll be more confident about speaking up. Yeah. So if your objective is really to engage everybody and get everyone talking, to get all their ideas, to create innovation, then that is what we need to think about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's also very nice in the things that you say is like the communication, and to start with is like, what is your to ask the question, like, what is your preferred communication? If you start with a simple question like that, you can already like have a good way to start and to go into discussion. Yeah, really nice.
Exactly.
Very inspiring. All right. I think we've been talking a lot about the importance of D&I. Maybe you, as an expert in the field, can you give us some insights in the current state of D&I in Belgium, and how you have seen it change maybe over the years?
Sure, definitely. One thing that I've seen change over the years is just more awareness, more talking about it, which is great. I was at a conference last week at HR Tech at Antwerp, and it was on the agenda. Pretty much every speaker talked about the need for more inclusion and more diversity to get better outcomes, to design better technology products, to remove bias from AI, things like that. And it's just great to see that conversation really going and more awareness about that topic. And speaking to a lot of leaders here in Belgium as well, people are saying that they want to educate their workforce about it. They want to have a positive impact, and they've seen through case studies in other companies how it can have that impact. So I'm like, lovely, let's get this conversation going. Let's keep the wheels turning in that sense. and specifically about the state of D&I here in Belgium. Really interestingly, we've just had a survey by Good Habits, a company here, who looked at over 1,000 employees in Belgium and surveyed them to ask what their thoughts were about D&I. So I'll just share a few results of that survey. So, for instance, one key takeaway was that 67% of the respondents said that it was important to work in an organisation that values D&I. So that shows that on the ground, people are engaged in this topic. Employees want to know more. And again, they are reading the same articles. They can see that it is having a positive impact elsewhere, and they want to be part of this movement. Also, 28% say that they're making a significant contribution. So that is not the majority of people in the workforce. So we see that most people want to be engaged more, want their organisation to do it, but they're not themselves doing something. So there I see a significant opportunity to engage people because they want it. Maybe they just don't have the tools right now. Maybe they're afraid that if they stick their head above the parapet, the leadership might not be motivated in the same way. They might not get the results they want to see. So if leadership comes out and says, this is what we want to do, then this could be a great opportunity to really engage people and give them the change that they would like to see right now here in Belgium. And also another result from that was that 67% of employees here in Belgium feel their organisation should pay more attention to D&I. So really, again, there, seizing this opportunity, seeing what is going on in people's minds at the moment.
Yeah, I think if I reflect on how we're doing it at In the Pocket, we also see that we are very engaged to do something about it, to change and to really make sure that we make efforts in building a more diverse and inclusive workforce. But then again, between being engaged and actually do something about it, it's really difficult to start with. You can start with a lot of small things. You can start with a big program. For instance, we start with a D&I scan, where we had a look like, okay, how are we doing? Because we didn't want to start from assumptions. But then now we need to build like a strategy around it, and we need to make actions. And I do see it's difficult, and it's not that we struggle with it, but you need to make time. Yeah, you need to have resources available, budget available, but you also need to put focus on it. And I'm especially curious what's your opinion about, for instance, really, having metrics around it. For example, as a company, do we need to say like, okay, in 2025 we want to have 50% females in leadership positions? Do we need to give ourselves targets? What's your opinion about it?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for really opening up and being so honest about the journey that you've been going on in the Pocket, because it isn't an easy road. Change never comes easy. And I think it's really important to be upfront about the fact that it will take time, as all change initiatives do, and there will be ups and downs. It's an uphill battle, trying to adjust behaviour and move to what we want to see. But again, if it is important, then this is what we have to do, and we can get there, for sure. And thinking about the metrics, this can be a very controversial topic. Just thinking about quotas. Do we put in, as you said, 50% of women and 50% of leaders in a few years' time need to be women, things like that. And there are many different opinions about this. My opinion is that, yes, we do need this.
Okay.
In an ideal world, we would not need this, because we could say that we want to make a change and we would work towards that. But we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a world where there is systemic inequality, historical inequality, and we need to do something to force change, I believe. And the good thing about making metrics is that we actually state our ambition, we publicize that, and then we can hold ourselves and our organizations accountable. That doesn't mean that, we will always achieve what we want to achieve, but at least if we are focused on it and we know what we want to do, then that means that we will work harder towards it.
Okay. Super. Very, very inspiring.
So everyone that passes through the studio during Studio Shift gets to pick some music as well. But in this hour, Emma, you're up first, picking your song.
Yeah, I picked a song because Freddie stole my song this morning.
Which song did he steal?
Jerry Rafferty, Right Down the Line.
He was first today, so yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So I needed to switch last minute, and I just chose George Benson with "Give Me the Night." I just love that song. That's special.
Didn't you choose that song last year as well?
No, I took.
I'm sorry. Okay, I thought
I took a better song. Steve Monite.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, but George Benson, it's a great song. It's a great song.
Studio Shift. Studio Shift.
George Benson, Give Me the Night. And getting back into diversity and inclusion with Emma and Tamara.
Yes. So right before for the music, before the break, we talked about quota. And the importance of it, that you stated that you do value quota. I think that is one way to stimulate D&I and to start with a D&I journey as a company. But what can you do? What can you do more to build a more diverse company? And also, why is it so important?
Sure, I'll definitely answer that. I just want to first mention something else about quotas, because I mentioned it is a controversial topic, and I want to address a fear that many people have, or a key concern around quotas, the fact that you might have this quota in place and then compromise on quality in order to fulfill it. Studies have actually shown, studies have been done looking into this, that when there are quotas, then overwhelmingly amount of time, then you will end up with people who are more qualified than the previous people who might have held those positions. Because when you are really doing more checks, doing more evaluations, then the people who are most qualified will be the ones who end up taking those roles. It won't be that because we need to have 50% of X demographic, we're just choosing anybody. So that can really help improve the quality in general of the people, no matter who the demographic is.
Yeah, nice. Maybe to make the link to how as a company you can build a more diverse workforce. Very curious about your opinion.
Yes, I would say the number one thing to do if you want to focus on having a more diverse workplace is to stop thinking about diversity and to instead think about inclusion. And this may sound counterintuitive, stop thinking about diversity, but really the evidence all shows that inclusion is what will get you the results that you want, not simply having diverse profiles. And you're probably thinking, for instance, about stats out there. Diverse teams are more innovative. Diverse teams do it better, frankly. What is not written in there is the fact that, as I like to say, it is inclusion that makes diversity a superpower. Because if you have the right environment, the diverse team can do what they need to do, produce new ideas, get all voices heard around the table, and lead to innovative results. But it is not simply because you have diverse people around the table. That is what the evidence and on-the-job research has shown is very much true.
You make a link with innovation. Do you have some statistic or research that you can share with us around that?
Sure. So the research from Deloitte, for instance, shows that diverse thinking can enhance innovation by 20% and enable groups to reduce risks by up to 30%. And then also looking at information from Gartner, a study that they did, then we can see that in inclusive cultures, companies are 2 times more likely to reach financial goals and 8 times more likely to have better business outcomes. And one of the dangers that we see around having diversity as the important factor rather than inclusion is then we end up with things like tokenism and diversity hires. And I have spoken to people who feel that they were the diversity hire brought in because leadership felt that they needed to, for instance, change the company photo. There were many people who fit the same demographic and they thought, this isn't good, we need to get some different people in this company photo. So they hire in some people who are different, at least who look different for the company photo. And that leads to issues for the person themselves, who then feels, was I actually qualified to do this? Or was I brought in just because they wanted to have somebody who looks different? Even if they know they are perfectly qualified, these are the small things that can get in, the doubts that can set in. And as well, other people in the company might make small microaggressions, small comments here and there, body language, signaling that I'm not sure that Bob is really good. We needed somebody who was different, who looked different, and so Bob is now here. Can I really trust them? Can I work with them? This is the reality that we see. So it's really not about focusing on just changing up the company photo and getting diverse people. You really have to focus on looking at how you do things, how you can be more inclusive. And there's something that I often see people falling into, a trap. Leaders thinking that there isn't a diversity in their organization. I've had a conversation, for instance, with a lady saying, very interesting, D&I, but in my company, we're all Flemish, most of us are women, there isn't that much diversity. We all come from the same region. I'm saying, okay, you said, first of all, that most of you are women, which means there is gender diversity. That's one point. Then also, are you all the same age? No. There is age diversity. Do you all have children? No. There is family diversity there. Some of you are working parents, some of you are not. You mentioned as well, this lady said, that at least one person she knows of is from the LGBT community. Okay, so there's more diversity there as well. So looking at the current workforce, there will always be diversity there and the need for that inclusion. And the study and research has already shown that when you have inclusion, people will want to come and work for you. Because I want to work for a place where I feel valued, where I feel welcome, able to speak my mind and receive a positive experience. I don't know anybody else who doesn't want to have this experience at work. So if you are inclusive and you welcome in people, no matter their background, they will want to work with you, they want to stay with you. If you focus on diversity, people will come because they see these messages and think, okay, I'm welcome here. But when they see the reality that there's no inclusion, they will leave because they can't work in these conditions, frankly.
Yeah. So building that inclusive place and really build your company and educate your company on how to be inclusive is a very important aspect. Another thing is, of course, like attracting diverse talents,
Yes.
because also we need to bring in those people. That's awfully stated of mine, sorry. But I'm very curious because we, as a tech company within Belgium, we really struggle with attracting more diverse talent. What we see is we receive more than 1,000 resumes a year, and they are overly dominated by highly educated white male. And we really struggle with it because we do think that we want to make a change. We want to hire more diverse people, but we don't see that change happening in schools. We don't see that change happening in technology areas. We do see that there's still a stigma around engineering, and it really starts from an early age. For example, there's a story of a young boy who went to Code Fever. It's a Coder Dojo kind of organization, and his little sister came with him, and his little sister was wearing a tutu to go to the ballet lesson, and the teacher asked to the boy, like, okay, are you ready for your lesson? And why is your sister not staying here? He was 6 years old. Oh, but my sister is a girl, was his response. So it starts at a really young age, especially as a parent and as someone who works in education. I also think that we have a very big responsibility in try to stimulate that and try to stay away from the cliche of the girl is going to ballet and the boy is going to soccer and engineering class. How do you look at it? What can we do as a company who is willing to change, but also what can we do?
And I definitely hear what you're saying, Emma, about some of the challenges you're experiencing currently and in the pocket around finding profiles. This is something that many companies are experiencing at the moment. Recent survey by SD Work showed that overwhelmingly companies here in Belgium are struggling or finding it harder than before to locate the right profiles, and it's taking longer than before. There are real issues at the moment. So I think many companies, many leaders are thinking like you about this, wondering how to make a change. And just what you mentioned about the gender bias that is still prevalent in our society. As you say, it starts very young. And this is something that can really be addressed in the way that we assess and do evaluations in terms of hiring and then attracting candidates as well. For instance, thinking about reaching new audiences, ask yourself where you are looking for people. Do you always use the same recruitment channels, the same recruiters who are bringing you the candidates from the same pool, for instance? Which pools could you be dipping into that you haven't yet done? For instance, I remember when I moved here a few years back, then we had a discussion at an organization I was working with, and they were asking where they could potentially investigate and look for new profiles. And thinking about my experiences living in London, seeing companies who would go to the annual Pride, the LGBT festival, and talk to people there, engage them about what they were doing at their company, and demonstrate their support as inclusive employers, then I said, what about this community? And at that time, actually, then everyone was sort of thinking, okay, what is that? And I was explaining, this is what LGBT stands for, the gay community. What about engaging them? Thinking about things like that, just different ways, going to different types of events where you engage with people who you might not have come into contact with before because, for instance, people might not be LinkedIn users. And if you are exclusively advertising through LinkedIn, then you're missing large swathes of the population. And you'll probably find that you're attracting the same kinds of candidates time and again, the same demographics. And thinking about removing bias, then there are some great studies out there and really clear things that companies can do, like some clear recommendations about how you can really de-bias the way you're hiring. For instance, just having a set of questions which you use for every candidate, rather than letting the interview be more spontaneous, going around, because that is a way that things like affinity bias can creep in. The fact that we tend to be more connected and drawn to people who are like us. So you might see on a candidate's resume that they went to the same university as you and think, oh, okay, well, sounds like this person is a good chap. that can help lead the conversation and can help skew your thinking in a way, because you have small pointers like this which show that there is a relationship between you. There is some sort of affinity. So if you are in an unstructured interview, for instance, you might then find that this is leading you to start talking for a while about your shared university experience. Oh, you did this sport, I did the sport as well. Let's talk about this. And you find that you had a great interview, you have a great sense about this person, but how have you really assessed their skills and how they would fit in? Whereas if interviewers have a set list of questions and they are asking everyone the same questions, preferably in the same order, that can help to remove the bias because you're really assessing people in the same way. And there's been very interesting research as well about how we can take away different pieces of information that trigger bias from the process. For instance, not having photos on CVs to remove attractiveness bias, removing people's names as well, anonymizing things. You can't see gender, you can't see background cues, and information, for instance, that's come from the US. There was some really interesting work done there in an orchestra, well, actually several orchestras, and they found that when they did blind auditions so that you couldn't see if the person auditioning was male or female, then the number of women in the top orchestras actually shot up from 6% to 21%, because then it was purely assessing people on talent rather than on any other biases that you might like to bring into the situation, essentially. So real interesting points that companies can put into practice to anonymize what they're doing, de-bias the situations, and then look for talent in new places rather than only looking in the same places.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good point, and also something that we're trying to do at In the Pocket. We also work with like a set of questions that we use for every interview, but still I think the bias is sometimes you're not aware of it. So training will also help, I think, with this topic. We talked a lot about the importance of D&I. Maybe I'm also like curious to know, how do you look if what will happen if companies don't invest in it?
Well, as we talked about earlier with the state of D&I here in Belgium, we're seeing that on the whole, employees really want to see their companies investing in D&I. So there is a real danger of losing the engagement and losing credibility with the workforce if companies do not invest in this, and invest in this now. It isn't, okay, let's put it on our agenda and talk about it in 2025. No, this is what people are saying right now. And the way that the world is changing, the way that society is now thinking about things, this is what people want to see today. The real opportunity, and real opportunities that can be missed if it is not taken up at the moment.
Yeah.
And as well, looking at the war for talent, for instance, what we were mentioning about challenges companies are having around finding talent, retaining talent, inclusion has been proven as a real way of addressing these challenges and creating the environment where you can innovate and fuel growth in your business, where you can retain and engage your employees.
Yeah.
Right, it's really interesting listening to the both of you sharing a lot of thoughts on this. But now, Tamara, it's your turn to pick some music. What song would you like?
I would like The Boys of Summer by Don Henley, please.
A big classic
Yes.
as well. Why that song?
I love to dance, and so I find that this song always gets me out of my seat and just puts me in a good mood.
Is it about that intro as well? Just the way it starts?
As soon as the music comes on, then you start to feel the tension growing and you're like, okay, I have to put down what I'm doing, stand up, dance, and take me back to the summer.
Yeah. If you've got a couple of minutes, just do what she just described to you during Boys of Summer.
Nobody on the road, nobody on the beach. I feel it in the air, my head, said don't look back, you can never look back. Thought I knew what love was, what did I know? Those days are gone forever, I should just let them go. But I can see you, your brown skin shining in the sun. You got the top pulled down, radio on, baby. I can tell you my love for you will still be strong after the poison summer have gone. I can see you, your brown skin shining in the sun. You got that hair slicked back in those Wayfarers on, baby. I can tell you my love for you will still be strong after the poison summer have gone.
Don Henley and Boys of Summer.
Studio Shift. Studio Shift.
And now on to the third and last part of diversity and inclusion with Emma and Tamara.
Yes, I saw Tamara dancing.
How can you not?
Yeah. So I hope we convinced our listeners about the importance of D&I already and why you should start with it or continue your journey. I'm really curious to have your opinions and thoughts about what challenges do we face as D&I professionals or people that are willing to change something? What are the challenges that we need to overcome, and what would be your suggestions to do?
The key challenge that I see, Emma, is really knowing where to start. That's the question that I get all the time. I want to do this. I know there's a need for it. But where do I begin? What is the first thing to do? How do I focus on this? How do I start spreading the message and get everyone engaged in the organization, particularly leadership as well? And so I think that, first of all, as we discussed, talking about small steps, we don't need to change the whole world in one day. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, but it's all about planning for it, having a strategy in place, and taking those small steps that will start your journey. And yes, asking for help is very important. Being upfront about the fact that you need some external support, some inspiration, some ideas, and so speaking to consultants who work in this, who can provide you that innovation and that inspiration on your journey, I find is very important. And another challenge that comes up is one that I think is, endemic for most of us, time. Many people working on D&I do it as a side of desk initiative, in a sense. They have their full-time day job, and then because they are passionate about it, they work on D&I on the side. And so, unfortunately, in this scenario, although the motivation and the dedication is generally there, then it can become a nice to have. And instead of the must-have that it needs to be to really create the traction and the change. So that is a key challenge that I see, can maintain the momentum and making sure that we actually keep this as a priority that has enough time for us to make the change we want to see. And also, because of this, then D&I professionals can find that well-being can be something that can be compromised, in a sense. Again, it's a topic that people tend to be very passionate about. That's why they go into working in this or working on this alongside their day job. They're not a full-time D&I professional. And so that passion keeps you wanting to make change, keeps you wanting to keep driving the initiatives while you, as I mentioned, you have your time invested in other areas. You have the full-time job that you're doing. You have your family commitments, everything like that. And so it can become something that is a big passion project that can be a bit overwhelming at times, unless there is adequate support in the organization and from leadership to make sure that you can fit in doing the necessary D&I work with everything else that you're doing. And I had a great example from a client recently talking about how her manager was very upfront about how her D&I work, she was the leader of an employee resource group for working parents, and her D&I work was actually part of her goals for the year. So it was really measured alongside the goals from the other part of her job so that she was able to give time during her working day to D&I as well as to her other priorities in the organisation. And it was followed up with the same accountability so that if she, for instance, wasn't delivering on her goals for D&I, it would be measured in the same way as not delivering on her goals for running her team, for instance.
Yeah, you mentioned employee resource groups. I think this is something maybe a little bit DNI lingo that not a lot of people know. What is
Sure,
it? Can you explain what is an employee resource group and why is it important to have one, or why is it not? Up to you.
Sure. So employee resource groups are groups of people in the organization who are interested and invested in similar topics. So for instance, this employee resource group that my client was in was for working parents. So people can join the group. They can use this as a place to discuss, to be upfront about what they might be experiencing, for instance, changes they would like to see in the organization to better support working parents, bringing awareness and visibility to what they're doing, and also celebrating the joys that are there in being a working parent. And very usefully, this information from the group can then be taken up to leadership. And leadership can join the group, for instance. I've seen that work very effectively, can join in the discussions and then be aware of how certain demographics are actually experiencing the organization, what they are going through, how they can be better supported through the policies of the organization. So it can be a very powerful way of engaging people within your organization, different demographics, and really hearing from the ground up what is going on, how people are feeling, how the organization can do things differently to better support its people and be more inclusive.
Very interesting. I think that could also be something that you can implement and that really can help to build around your strategy. And it's based mainly on the fact of listening to your employees and don't make any assumptions about it. Listen first. Yeah.
Exactly. As you said earlier, Emma, talking about the D&I audit that you did, listening to people, not making assumptions. That is really key here.
Yeah. Okay. We talked before, and you mentioned there that authenticity plays a big role in implementing D&I, and especially for people who are day-to-day involved with it, or managers or leadership positions. Doesn't matter. What role does it play?
I think it plays a very big role in terms of actually being upfront about what you need, what other people need, and what you are able to do. And just to give an example about this, thinking about being authentic and realizing that Rome wasn't built in a day. We can't do everything. We don't all have the knowledge and skills. So let me see who does. Let me talk to people. Let me actually get out there and have that courage to say that I don't have all the answers. People, tell me your views. Let's get together, work on this as an initiative. I think that sometimes leaders can feel that it is up to them to have all the answers, but no, have that courage to gather information from other people, seek the information that you need, get the support that you need. And definitely for people working in D&I, I found the best way for me to be a professional and to get what I need and create the safe space, for instance, for dialogue, is to be upfront about what I go through, to share my experiences, to share stories like the ones I shared earlier about a time when I was included, a time when I was excluded, and then show that this is a space where we can all be ourselves, we can talk about things honestly and have that dialogue. And it's a safe space as well. We're not going to tell anybody anything that we've said. Nobody is going to be penalized for raising something. Let's ask questions. Let's just be authentic, because then we can really have that learning and dialogue moment.
Nice. I think what would be like your top advice? What would be your top advice for businesses who want to invest in D&I, who are at the beginning of a journey? What is a must?
I would say a must is definitely thinking about inclusion rather than thinking about diversity as your top subject, as we talked about earlier. Also, making sure that you are properly investing in this, that you're listening to your people, that you have some budget put aside so that you can hold town hall events, for instance, so that you can get speakers in, you can get the training that is needed to really carry through the change that you want to see. And thinking about this as a change transformation, not just a one-off unconscious bias workshop, because it's been proven that those do not work. Unconscious bias is a very important topic. I'm not saying don't do unconscious bias trainings, just that by themselves, they will not create the change that you want to see. So make sure that you are investing in the whole journey that is needed to create that change. And another thing I'd like to say is get comfortable with discomfort. This is also something I hear often. We don't want to make people uncomfortable. And I have to say that staying in your comfort zone, yes, it's great. We all like it. But nothing good comes when you do that. Anything in life, if you want to learn how to walk, you want to learn how to ride your bicycle, how to drive a car, you have to get out of your comfort zone because you realize that what you want to achieve is worth it. And once you get there, then you reap those benefits. But it doesn't come from staying comfortable and not creating any waves. This is exactly the same.
Yeah, okay. great key takeaways, and I think a lot of people can take these things with them and implement it straight away. Maybe one of my last questions. Very curious to know, like, what's next for you on your personal journey with your mission.
Sure. Thank you. Just a few notes about that. So yes, Evan, you and I spoke earlier this week on a webinar about mental health. I'll be running more webinars in the future on this topic, talking about how to start up a D&I strategy, the importance of having a narrative and socializing that in the organization to get everyone on the same page and understanding what this change is about. So there'll be more information soon via LinkedIn and other channels around that. I'll also be doing a panel event in person. So if anyone's able to come to Brussels, 29th of November, I'm collaborating with a club there called The Nine, near Schumann, and we're doing an in-person panel with 3 experts about the importance of equity in organizations and what businesses can do to bring equity in, what it means, practical tips, all of that from our 3 experts' perspectives. And thinking about supporting people, being authentic, providing spaces for dialogue, etc. I'm currently doing a project with the European Network Against Racism to create an inclusive space, a community for D&I professionals across Europe so that we can share ideas, exchange knowledge, get to meet each other, work together on projects, and have solidarity as we go through this journey of this work together.
Very exciting times ahead, I think. I think we're at the end. So I really want to thank you, Tamara. I really enjoyed our conversation. I have the feeling that you sparked me even more to do some great work within the D&I field.
Thank you, Emma.
Maybe some key takeaways. I noted 2. I think the first one is building a diverse workforce is one thing, but to make your company more inclusive, that will be crucial, especially in keeping, attracting and retaining talent. And the second one, what really resonated with me was the example that you give of a leader of a previous job that really asked you to participate in the conversation. So I also think my second key takeaway would be like it's in the small things. As a colleague, a leader, a manager, you can be an influence. How small or big the gestures are, I think we all have a responsibility in it. So thanks a lot for your time. I really enjoyed it.
And thank you so much for having me this morning.
Thanks to the both of you as well, and have a great day.